back at some of the classroom scenes we saw earlier, you would notice that from time to time, the teacher had to stop the tape. Let's look at this particular scene. Why did the teacher have to stop the tape at a certain part? Apparently, the text was long and they had to discuss what they had listened to. What else did you notice? You must have seen that some lines were drawn to suggest cuts. This goes to show that long texts should be divided in two sections. Why did the teacher do that? Right, the teacher used a long text for analysis. Hence, she had to cut it into parts or sections. She also had to ask her students some questions to enable them to process the material while it was still fresh in their minds. This is a major feature of the sectional approach. So, how does sectional approach help develop the students' analytical listening skills? The sectional approach allows the teacher to cut the text into parts. It enables the learner to see relationships between and among parts. It guides the learner through the different stages of analysis until he or she will have reached certain conclusions or generalizations. For more information about the sectional approach, refer to the Teaching Support Material or the TSM, where you will find a fuller explanation of this approach. So far, we have learned two teaching approaches in developing analytical listening skills: the TQLR approach and the sectional approach. Now, let's go back to the classroom and see the last teaching situation.
After listening to the first few sections, let us now listen to the very last section of the text.
So what can you do? What can we do? There is so much that we can do. You and I can conserve forests, report illegal loggers, and plant trees.
What did we hear from the last part of the speech? The resource speaker found some solutions to the problems he had earlier identified. What was this problem? The problem identified was man destroys the environment. And what solutions did he offer? First, he urged us to conserve and preserve our forests. Secondly, the speaker encouraged us to report illegal logging activities. And lastly, he wanted us to plant trees. Here is another example of a long text which can be divided into sections. This is a parallel lesson to what we had shown you earlier. Let us visit the classroom once more to observe how it is done.
Good morning, class! It's a pleasant morning, isn't it? But with your big smiles and you looking so good and so smart with your well-pressed uniforms. You know, class, today you're going to listen to a story. It's entitled Survival of the Smartest. Now, can anyone guess what the story is about? Yes, Kathy?
Can the story be about an abducted boy who was able to escape from his captors?
Maybe, Kathy. Any other guess? Yes, Jeff.
I think the story is about competition among scholars.
Who else can make another good guess? Yes, Maris?
I agree with Jeff, ma'am. It could be Wisby, just like the Battle of the Brains.
Okay, we'll find out later which of those two answers are correct.
What was the first activity about? They had a title study. The teacher asked the students to predict what the story was going to be about. She encouraged them to give varied answers. This is also one way of stimulating the students' interest in the story. Again, this is the T and the TQLR. The students have to tune in to the topic. Now, back to the classroom.
Class, are you ready to listen to the story now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Survival of the Smartest. Roger Anderson got out of bed, put on his suit, got in his car, and drove to work. His car had a flat tire near the forest. When he got out of his car to fix the tire, a tiger suddenly came out of the forest. The tiger was going to eat Mr. Anderson, but the human got down on his knees and begged, "Please, tiger, don't eat me. I never did anything to hurt you." Class, what was the story about? Did anybody guess it correctly? Yes, Terence?
Nobody was able to guess it.
Arlan?
The story was all about a man and an animal.
You're right. So what questions do you have in mind now after listening to the story? To the first part, rather, of the story. Yes, Kate?
Who will be smarter between the man and the tiger?
Yes, Jackie?
How will they be able to outsmart each other?
Let us find out if these questions will be answered in the text. Okay?
Did you notice something different? This time, the teacher read the text. She did it live. It was not recorded. What should you remember when you have to read the text live to your students? There are two things that you should remember. First, be sure that you stay at the back of the classroom while reading the text so that the students will be forced to listen. Second, be sure that you maintain the same voice, the same stress, the same phrasing, or the same juncture. What did the teacher do after the first part of the story? Yes, the teacher asked if any of the students was able to predict what the story was about. Unfortunately, no one did. Then, she asked them to form questions. These are the questions that they would like to be answered since their curiosity was aroused after knowing what the story was about. This again is the Q in the TQLR. Now, back to the classroom.